Yo, what's up? It's your boy Ernie Reyes Jr. and you're watching Hyper.combo.comics.
What's up YouTube, it's your boy hyper.combo.comics and I'm here to introduce you to part 2 of my top 20 comic book pickups of 2024. Now part 1, which was the previous video, showed the books that I ranked from numbers 20 to 11, and this part 2, is going to show basically the books that I ranked from 10 to 1. And yes, just like part 1, these books are going to be ranked in that specific order from 10 to 1. And as I mentioned before, I'm sure there's going to be some disagreements in terms of where I place certain books in terms of its positions on my ranking, but keep in mind this is my personal ranking based on certain goals I have within this hobby in terms of runs that I'm trying to fill, as well as general interest in characters and series in comics. So, you know, I definitely would love to hear your feedback after this video, and hopefully you guys enjoy this final top 10. And with that in mind, let's get right into it. Alright, kicking off the second part of this video series, and at the number 10 spot is Hulk 182. Now, when I got back into the hobby about 6 years ago, just like many of you, there were certain grails I had in mind to add to the collection, one of them being the first appearance of Wolverine. Now, I know there is a bit of controversy in terms of what's considered his first true appearance. Is it 180 or 181? I'm definitely not going to get into that in this video series because I'm sure that's going to open up a whole can of worms in the comment section. So I figured, you know what, let me aim to get both books just to have my bases covered. And I actually did accomplish that about 2 years ago. But the thing is, you know, the collector in me, once I got them, was thinking, well, since I already have these two books, I might as well go for the third book, his third appearance, to complete the trifecta and just cap off that whole Wolverine storyline in the Incredible Hulk run. And I actually was able to get that a few months ago at my local shop. This copy that you see right here, I believe I paid probably roughly 25 or 30 Canadian for it. And the reason it was so low is because the shop did mention there was a minor tape repair on the book. But honestly, it was so negligible and the book still presents very well. I was going to grab it. It was a no-brainer. And plus, this was going to stay in the collection anyways. I wasn't planning on selling it or flipping it or anything like that. So I was more than happy to pay 30 bucks for this copy. And now I have all three first appearances of Wolverine in the PC. So definitely happy to add this one. Alright, moving on to number 9, and the second video game entry on this list is Super Mario Bros. Number 1 from Valiant Comics. Now, I'm going to be dating myself a bit, but the first console I ever owned as a kid was the NES system, which of course came bundled with the Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt video game. So this book has always been at the top of my mind to add to the collection because, like I mentioned before, I do collect video game comics. But the problem is this book has always been a very pricey book to find. Fortunately, I was able to find this at my shop during Free Comic Book Day back in May, and they had a store-wide sale of, I believe, 10% off. So this copy you see right here, it was priced at 30, and then when you knock off an additional 10%, I paid 27 Canadian for this. And the reason it was so low is because although the front looks decent, the back is slightly a bit more rougher. But honestly, just like I mentioned with the number 10 book, this is a PC book. It's a personal collection book. For me, as long as the front presents fairly well and the book is complete and nothing's missing, it's always going to be a consideration in the collection. And if I ever find a better copy down the line, I can always level up this copy. But it's just nice knowing that I can finally say that I own this book in the collection, and I don't have to actively go hunting for it now. Number 8 on this list, and the first Silver Age entry in my top 20, is Fantastic Four Annual number 2, which features the origin of Doctor Doom. Now, I know this list has been mainly comprised of modern and hard to find variants, but I'll always have love for the Bronze and Silver Age comics, especially if I can find these for really great prices. And this was definitely one of them. I was able to actually nab this during a Boxing Day sale here in Canada, and this book was at a 50% off table. So when you talk about books that level up your collection, like these are the kind of books that definitely fit the bill. I mean, you have classic Kirby Doom art, which is always going to be timeless, and it's just one of those books that you can proudly display on your wall and on your shelf, and it just I'm just glad to have this now in the collection. And it's one of those things where I don't actively hunt for it, but whenever I can come across a good deal on these kind of classic origin issues or first appearances, I'll always pull the trigger. So definitely happy to have this one in the PC. Alright, next up on the list at number 7 is the preview flip book that basically has the excerpts of both Dragon Ball 1 and Dragon Ball Z 1. And this preview book predates both series chronologically, so that's the main significance of this book. Now, I got this on two fronts. One being a nostalgic play, as Dragon Ball Z was part of the pop culture zeitgeist back when I was in high school. And also, the more important reason I got this is that it's a super tough book to find, especially in high grade. I believe currently on eBay there is likely around maybe 3 or 4 copies floating for sale, and the asking prices for those are a hefty premium, as sellers know how rare this book is. Even a raw beater copy I saw sell for over 100 Canadian back in November, so even the low-end copies still fetch a premium. Now, I was able to actually grab this copy from my LCS, I believe in March or February of 2024, and he was able to actually find this in his storage unit, and it wasn't cheap. I think I paid probably around 300 or 325 for it, but honestly, given how rare it is, and given how usually when you do find these copies, they're not in the best of condition, I was more than happy to pay the asking price, especially considering this copy was very clean. So definitely happy to add this in the PC. Alright, number 6 on the list, we are going Copper Age with ASM 300, which is the first full appearance of Venom. Now, the thing about me is the kind of characters I like in Marvel lean more towards that anti-hero type. So like the Punishers, the Wolverines, and the Venoms, those are the kind of characters I gravitate towards. And this is actually my second copy of Amazing Spider-Man 300. My first copy I actually got off an eBay auction maybe 5 years ago, and this copy presents a lot better than the one that I bought way back then. Now, the way I actually got this particular copy was through a collection purchase. I didn't buy this outright, and if I'm not mistaken, based on the condition of this particular issue, I would say that it actually makes up almost 3/4 of the value of what I paid for that collection. So it was a definite steal in that sense, and just happy to have a better looking copy of this book in the PC. So yeah, that's number 6. Now, if I'm going to grab the first appearance of Wolverine, then I'm going to have to grab the first appearance of one of his greatest rivals of all time, bringing me to number 5 on the list, Iron Fist 14, featuring the first appearance of Sabretooth. Now, this isn't my first copy of this book. I actually acquired this when I purchased the Iron Fist run back in 2023, but this is my first ever graded copy of his first appearance. Now, Sabretooth is just one of those classic Bronze Age villains that has not only become a foil for Wolverine, but he's also become a great adversary for the XMen team as well. And he's just one of those characters that I'll always pick up if I find a great deal on it. And in this case, I actually picked up this CGC 6.5 at a warehouse sale that was selling this for 50% off. And at that price, it's a no-brainer. I'm gonna grab it for the PC all day, every day. Alright, and number 4 on the list is SpiderMan Noir number 1, featuring the first appearance of, you guessed it, SpiderMan Noir. Now, this book has been surging due to the upcoming show on Amazon Prime, but that's not the reason why I put this so high on the list at number 4. This particular issue is the newsstand version, and if you guys know anything about newsstand versus direct, newsstand copies have become a lot more rare in 2009 when this issue was released. And so to find this issue in a newsstand is a super tough find. fortunately, I was able to actually grab this from a friend's booth who was working at the Montreal Comic Con. He actually cut me a really good deal on this, on the entire set actually. And it was just a case of being at the right place and at the right time, and I was just happy to grab this set before someone else did, and just happy to add this this ghost, honestly, to the PC. So a definite win at the Montreal Comic Con with this book. Alright, so number 3 on the list, and my second Silver Age entry on the top 20, it is Fantastic Four 49, which features the first full appearance of Galactus, and also the first cover appearance of Galactus and Silver Surfer. Now, I did not think I'd be able to say this in 2025, but this is actually my second copy of this book. The first copy I actually picked up at an antique shop in Ottawa, I think 2-3 years ago. And this copy I picked up actually at a Boxing Day sale, which was part of the 50% off table. So I got a really good deal on this book. And honestly, listen, we know that the Fantastic Four are coming to the MCU. We see the the reveals and all that at the San Diego Comic Con. So it's only inevitable that Galactus will also be making his way into the MCU as well. Regardless, whether he is or isn't, it's just a classic Silver Age character, and him and Silver Surfer are, just like Sabretooth, are timeless characters in comics. And the fact that I can actually say that I own 2 copies of this issue, like I said, I didn't think I'd ever be able to say that, because getting 1 copy was a big enough deal for me. So the fact that I have 2, that's, yeah, definitely stoked. Alright, almost winding down the list is number 2, which is Werewolf by Night number 32, featuring the first appearance of Moonight in a CGC 4.0 label. Now, the thing is, when it comes to Bronze Age characters, the kind of characters I tend to gravitate towards are some of the more supernatural and horror type characters. Like I have the first appearance of Blade, the first appearance of the Midnight Suns, and of Man-Thing. So this was always one of those books that I was eyeing for a while, but when the show came out a few years ago on Disney Plus, I've seen the prices on these books going higher and higher, and it almost felt like this book was going to be unattainable for me, at least for quite a bit. But the thing about comics is there's always ebbs and flows, especially when it comes to these long time, Bronze and Silver Age keys. There's always going to be those peaks and valleys, and sometimes, the best thing to do is to exercise patience. And that's pretty much what I did with this book. I didn't want to pull the trigger when the prices were, keep on going up and up. So, inevitably, when the show, came and went, the prices of this book started cooling down. And it was just a case of me biding my time, and I was able to actually find this for a really solid price at a sale locally. And honestly, I didn't think that I would actually own this book last year, and I'm just happy to now finally have this in the PC. So another Bronze Age horror character added to the collection. Alright, rounding out the number 1 spot on my top 20 list is X-Men 94, which basically kicked off the Chris Claremont X-Men run, and which is the run that many considered is what breathed new life in the X-Men franchise, as it was getting a bit stagnant for a while, before this issue 94 dropped. Now, here's the thing. When you look at this copy, it definitely isn't the best looking copy by any stretch of the imagination. But, I mentioned previously about, having certain goals in the hobby. And one of my personal side goals was always to finish that Chris Claremont X-Men run. And it's definitely a tough run to complete, especially when you're hunting for those issues in the late 90s and early 100s. I was slowly able to chip away at some of those big books, but I was always missing X-Men 101, which was the first Dark Phoenix, and this particular issue right here. So the fact that I was able to actually close out 2024 with this book in my collection, that definitely was not in the bingo card, and I actually got this at a Facebook claim sale at a half off price deal, and I was actually maybe a second early in claiming this book, as someone else right after me claimed this book, but fortunately I was able to grab this book, and honestly I'm just happy it's now in the collection. And look, if I ever want to upgrade down the line, I always have the option to do so, but just knowing that I at least am one step closer to finishing that Claremont run, it's just another achievement in my 2024 collecting goals. So that about does it for my top 20 pickups of 2024. Needless to say, 2024 has been a very productive year, and looking forward to seeing what 2025 has to offer in terms of what books I come across, and I'll definitely be documenting these throughout the whole year, and we'll love to have you guys come aboard for the journey. So definitely sub up if you haven't already. And with that in mind, I'll sign off by saying, remember, if you're too broke to buy comics, you can always visit your local library. Peace out.